Hi, I'm Jonathan Sherlock. You might know me as Ojno the Red. I'm the author of TravellerWorlds. Remember, a good idea for an adventure setting trumps a bunch of randomly generated numbers every time. Today's topic will be around your preferences and your map. And you'll see here that we're looking at the system of Rio in the Spinwood Marches. Very interesting system on the border of the Jordani Consulate. So lots of opportunity for an adventure involving intrigue with the Jordani and the Imperial forces. And you can see here that it's a fairly ideal looking world. Atmosphere of 8, so breathable without assistance, decent amount of water on the surface, and population in the millions. It's a garden world and very susceptible to, or desirable rather, to being inhabited by humans. Let's see what happens when we generate the details by clicking on Generate Map. So we've navigated away from Joshua Bell's excellent traveller map towards my application, TravellerWorlds. You'll notice that Rio, it turns out, is not quite so ideal. It is, in fact, a Twilight Zone world. Now, this is one of the interesting things we encounter in official data a lot, but it will also occur in your own data if you're using TravellerWorlds for generating stars and star systems. If you see here, we're looking at the full system, and the reason that Rio is a Twilight Zone world is simply because the star, a red dwarf, an M0V, is very cold, and so the habitable zone is in fact right there in orbit 0, which is closer than Mercury is to our own sun. The gravitational forces involved inevitably mean that the world will be tidally locked to a star, one face, always facing towards the sun. Now, this happens so much in TravellerWorlds when we generate star systems that agricultural or garden worlds turn out to be tidally locked. Sometimes that vision really doesn't match what's in your head for what you thought the world would be like. It might not suit your adventure at all. So I added the Remove Twilight Zone feature. And as you can see, all that does is removes the Twilight Zone. You can then use the other data as you like. You might decide that the temperature thing there doesn't really suit you. You can play with that. We don't actually have to be slaves to the physics of this situation. Science fiction is, after all, what we're actually playing. The F is for fiction. Now, I also want to go into today, more importantly, other features in the Your Preferences menu. So if you have a look at Your Preferences, you can see here that quite a few settings can be changed, and I just want to point out a couple of them and how you might experiment with them. First of all, with map colors. Now, you might have noticed the oceans are a little bit not quite what the color they usually are. Today, I'm going to make the oceans hot pink for the sake of argument and go okay, because for some reason, I think that's a good idea. You need to save your preferences. And then we can come back to our map, and it's still there as we generated it. And now under Map Actions, we can regenerate that map using the current seed. Just a word, we use seeds because we actually use pseudo-random generation. Obviously, computers are very bad at producing actual random numbers. We can take advantage of the seed, though, by having the random sequence be actually the same, which means we generate the same map. So now the oceans are all hot pink. Now I've decided I don't like this at all. In fact, I might prefer the default colors. Don't worry, we can go back to Your Preferences. We can reset the defaults, and that then goes back to resetting our colors. We can then regenerate the map using the current seed to bring it back to those default colors, which I actually quite like. I've set them that way. We can also force the system generator to do certain things. Let's say we absolutely want to force the main world to be placed as a satellite. We can tick that box. Then we can go back to our full star system. In fact, you do actually have to save that first. And we go back to our full star system. And now we can, under system actions, we can regenerate the system, again, using the current speed. But you can see here that the planet Rio has now been forced to be a satellite of a gas giant here in this first orbit. Let's see what that's actually done to our world. Now, interestingly, it's regenerated the world as a Twilight Zone world. That's a bug. These tutorials are going to feature those a lot. But you can see here that the principle is that if we go to our system, we've regenerated to force the world to be a satellite of the gas giant. Now, the way the Traveller 5 rules work is there's a random roll to place the main world either straight in the habitable zone or the habitable zone one closer or one further. And there's a random roll to determine whether the planet, the main world, is a satellite of another body or you might have a particular vision in your head of the way these things work. You can force certain generations. You can do the same thing with map generations. You can force it to be a black and white map. You can place in a state for each noble present, which we might actually do now. Let's change our preferences there and save them. Go back to our map. And then let's regenerate that map. We can do that just by hitting the refresh key. And we can do that because that information that Traveller Map passed to us, it's all there up in the URL. We'll scroll down a bit, and what you'll notice, and it's probably obscured by the detail a bit, there's a noble estate there, and you can see it belongs to a knight. If there was multiple nobles, bear in mind that we're just assuming that this is imperial space in the generator. Rio obviously is not. Then it would produce one noble estate for the knight, one for a local count who might be present, and it would place them on the map. That'll actually do for today, and those are a few tips that I hope show you how the Your Preferences menu works. Thank you.